Afternoon. Good to see you again. We're gonna get started while our presenters come up, and those of you at the table, grab your things and join us at the tables here. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll have time after as well for you to visit the speakers and exhibitors to collect some more materials if you haven't had a chance yet. So again, hello and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn event, the Caregiver Journey, Caring for Your Loved One. I'm Linda Levin, CEO of ElderSource. ElderSource is the Area Agency on Aging and the Aging and Disability Resource Center for 7 counties in Northeast Florida. You know, it's not uncommon for people not to know our organization until you need us. And what we want is for people to know us before you need us so we can help get things in place. You might be surprised to learn that as many people who don't know about us, our helpline gets more than 5,000 calls a month. Yes, wow. Which, you know, for a 7-county area, that can be challenging, but that's what we're here for. We're here to take those calls and to try to help as best we can. Please know that many people call on us for many, many reasons, and we do our best and will continue to do our best to respond and to serve. So we appreciate your patience as we work through those calls. ElderSource is proud, as an area agency on aging, to be a sponsor for these caregiver events. I have to stress, I'm a caregiver for my parents, my dad who recently passed, but still for my mom. And I know very well the needs of the caregiver, working caregivers, family caregivers, friends and neighbors who are caregivers. And so we are very, very proud to be able to bring this series to you. And I'm so glad to see some of the familiar faces from last week's event and to see you back out here again today and some new faces. Today's Lunch and Learn session, Caring for Your Loved One, is the second in a series of community events that were designed for you, the caregiver, in mind. The first event was last week, the Caregiver Journey, Taking Care of Yourself. In case you missed it, no worries. You can find this recorded event on the WJCT website at wjct.org/caregiving, along with the important information and resources that were shared with the audience. The community sponsors who have come together to create this series have a simple goal: to equip you with practical tips, thoughtful insights, and everyday tools that support you not only as a caregiver, but as a whole person. Because while we are caregivers, we are more than a caregiver. I highly encourage you to take time to visit the exhibitor tables if you have not already. At the end, make time to go by, ask questions, gather resources. If you're here today, chances are you need these resources and support from subject matter experts to be the best caregiver you can be. Your health and well-being matter deeply to us because supporting you means strengthening the care you're able to provide. This event and the others over the next couple of weeks are part of a national engagement campaign featuring the 2-hour documentary from executive producer Bradley Cooper, himself a caregiver. Caregiving is a story of paid and unpaid caregivers navigating the challenges and joys of this deeply meaningful work, intertwining intimate personal stories with the untold history of caregiving. The documentary reveals the state and the stakes of care in America today. You can find information about how to watch Caregiving, the documentary, also at wjct.org/caregiving. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to acknowledge and thank, did I not do it? Where's the thing? Okay, this is not clicking. Can someone advance the slide? Someone else? Very good, yay. There's always a way. caregivers are nothing else. If they're not anything else, we're persistent. So we want to thank our and acknowledge our sponsors, particularly WJCT Public Media, for bringing that documentary to us and for partnering with all of us to bring the series to you. Elder Source, Alivia Care, Brooks Rehabilitation, Legend Senior Living, Pine Castle, the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation, Comfort Keepers, River Garden Senior Services, Modified Independence, and Community Catalyst. Let's give them a round of applause for their commitment. So now I'm going to introduce our speakers for today's event. I'm going to introduce each of them all at once, and then let them share with you what they know and see how they can help you. So first to speak will be Chris Morrisette, a seasoned healthcare executive, strategist, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience leading transformative initiatives across value-based care. I think I'm supposed to advance the slide. Oh, no, you did. Thank you. As Chief Strategy Officer at Alivia Care, Chris leads enterprise-wide efforts to expand access to community-based services, optimize value-based contracting, and build integrated delivery networks encompassing hospice, home health, PACE, palliative, and primary care. In this role, he supports Alivia Care's strategic priorities by maximizing growth opportunities and positioning the organization for success in emerging alternative payment models. Next, we have Dr. Sue Krall, who dedicated 5 decades to the nursing profession before retiring in 2021. Throughout her extensive career, she served in multiple specialized roles, including nurse educator and geriatric nurse practitioner. For the final 25 years of her career, Dr. Sue was director of the home health and adult day programs at River Garden Hebrew Home. Dr. Sue took the initiative to establish a partnership with the Alzheimer's Association and created an active support group that continues to provide guidance, education, and emotional support to countless families. Now, in 2025, she has also begun to facilitate a second support group on all aspects of aging and geriatric caregiving. And third, we have Dr. Felecia Hudson. She is a healthcare professional with 27 years of nursing experience and currently serves as the Director of Performance Improvement and Education for the Brooks Rehabilitation Home Health Division. She has held various clinical leadership positions within the post-acute spectrum of care and has worked on a multitude of initiatives designed to enhance care transitions and improve outcomes of patients and families. Each role has provided invaluable insights into the unique needs and challenges faced by patients and families within the greater community. Each will have a turn to speak to you about this topic today, and then we will have time at the end for Q&A, so you'll have a chance to ask your questions and hopefully get some more answers. And so with that, Chris, we welcome you to the podium to kick things off. Whoops.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Linda. Well, what a privilege to be with you today, to be surrounded by caregivers. Truly, you are the heroes. I've had the opportunity to work much of my career in healthcare and see the work that you do as caregivers. And I am always amazed and impressed by just your tenacity and your ability to serve those that you love. And so it's a real privilege to be here with you today. It's also a privilege to talk about something I am deeply passionate about, and it's the new guide model. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this new innovation model that many like you would have access to. If you're not familiar, Medicare, or CMS, as we often use as acronyms or things in healthcare, has an innovation arm called CMMI. And under that innovation arm have come a number of great innovation models, and Guide happens to be one of them. And so we're going to talk about that today. You can go on to the next slide. So what is the Guide program? And as we know, and you're looking at the landscape, there are close to 6 million Medicare beneficiaries that have dementia. 6 million. And I think we saw this on the national news even last year, where the United States government was looking at how do we start to serve these 6 million beneficiaries of Medicare, as well as their caregiver. And we're excited to share that this GUIDE program is one of those options that came out of the innovation side of Medicare. GUIDE stands for, it's a national program under the CMMI, and it stands for Guiding an Improved Dementia Experience. And I had to read it for a moment because we get so used to our acronyms in healthcare. Guiding an Improved Dementia Experience. And again, the idea is with 6 million people living with dementia, you think about the number of caregivers that are impacted by that. And so we know that we have to do something different. Medicare, and I am so proud of the work that they're doing under this payment model, creating the opportunity for you as caregivers to access, as well as your loved one who has dementia. And so you can go on to the next slide. Again, what we know of caregivers supporting their loved one with dementia, or individuals that are navigating dementia themselves, is there's a lot of support needed. And so some of the key features of this program include a personalized dementia care plan with your input. And so again, we all have been to the doctor, some good experiences, some less than good experiences. And when you're navigating a serious or complex illness like dementia, it requires a specialized support. This dementia care model, this GUIDE model, is designed to really engage you as well as the family caregiver, whoever's in that broader continuum, in the process of helping drive your care plan. Your primary care provider is involved, any specialist can be involved in that, as well as the GUIDE participant who's helping support you to really drive that care plan forward. In my mind, this is a game changer because it brings primary care to the table along with all of the other specialists and gives that GUIDE participant, that program that's helping you journey, the opportunity to really help ensure that that care plan is executed and delivered. The other thing for caregivers, and this is exciting, and again, you heard the White House talk about this over the last couple of years, we need more education for caregivers. And so a part of the GUIDE program is actually a requirement that any GUIDE participating provider is extending GUIDE education to you. And so, you heard from Linda, there's a lot of great resources that you may not be aware of. The GUIDE program that would be engaged in your plan of care, one of their competencies and requirements is to help drive that education forward and let you know what resources are available in your community. This also includes support groups. And so support groups can be a great way for you to engage and talk with other caregivers or other individuals with dementia who are journeying through this very difficult disease. 24/7 support. And this is where we see some of the greatest opportunity. We all know what that's like on a Thursday or a Friday, coming into the weekend, and maybe medications aren't quite right, maybe there's some concerns, maybe you just have some agitation or questions about how to manage or support your loved one who has agitation. A part of the GUIDE program is 24/7 support. You all know what happens when you call a traditional primary care at about 12 o'clock on a Friday, right? If this is an emergency, please hang up and call 911, right? And what happens then when we call 911 is we end up going to the hospital, we end up going through intake, we're sitting there with a loved one. And I can tell you, having been there and having been in a caregiving role myself, 3 hours in the emergency room with someone who has an acute, agitated type dementia is no place for that individual. The GUIDE program with the 24/7 support is designed to help reduce unnecessary use of the emergency room or unnecessary hospitalizations. There's somebody at the other end of the phone that can pick up and help you through some of those things. Now, it's not a catch-all for everything, right? Slips, trips, falls, there's certain things that we still have to use the emergency room for, always. But this is a way to help avoid some of those unnecessary things when you get that 12 o'clock p.m. message from your primary care doctor. And in their defense, that is how the system has been designed, okay? And this is where CMS, being very mindful of that, providing this resource to be a support, not just to the family, the caregiver, the individual, but also that primary care provider, because they are not equipped under the current infrastructure. GUIDE is an option to help support the primary care provider as well as the individual with dementia and their caregiver. And then finally, access to respite services for caregiver relief. Let me say that again, because caregivers in the room, you all should cheer about this. Respite services are provided as a part of this GUIDE model. Up to $2,500 per year per beneficiary to support you as a caregiver. This is another game changer. There's opportunity to use respite in your home or to potentially use respite in a facility approved by CMS to be able to take a break. Because under this model, CMS, Medicare has found that caregivers who are exhausted and tired and don't have a break aren't able to carry on for very long. And so this is an opportunity to help give you a respite and a break so that you can actually provide that service and support that's needed. You can go on to the next slide. So Alivia Care, which I am privileged to work with, is the parent company of Community Hospice. Many of you know of Community Hospice by name. We actually had the opportunity to be one of the first programs in the country. There are about 325, 350 programs nationally that are now active in GUIDE that were approved under the Medicare Innovation Arm. Alivia Care was one of the very few nationally and one of the only in Florida that were able to go live last year. And so Alivia Care has been able to provide GUIDE services now to over 149 patients over the last 12 months. And I'm going to share a couple just real brief stories about some of the experiences we've had. We have a deep experience in serious illness care as well as community-based care. And again, one of the opportunities we've learned over the last year is how this GUIDE model can truly make a difference. You can go on to the next slide. So a couple of real quick stories, and these are probably very common, very similar experience. First I'm going to talk about is about Ruth. Very similar to many. I mean, I've read statistics recently. 1 in 4 caregivers are very much like Ruth, meaning they're the sandwich generation. They have young children, school-age children, kids in high school, maybe even college that they're helping support, and they also have a parent who is going through. I am a sandwich generation caregiver. Kids still in high school and also parents who are aging and needing support. So Ruth, very much like many, struggling to kind of manage this. She has a mother with Alzheimer's type dementia. It's very progressive. And so the experience that Ruth had, she was working full-time, managing children who are still in the home and then trying to support her mom, and it was just too much. And so she was overwhelmed by the stress of this. And like many of you who are caregivers or trying to even journey your own care, it's overwhelming. You try to navigate the care system. You try to even just figure out why were you billed what you were billed in your last doctor visit. All of this overwhelming. And so Ruth needed some help. And so the GUIDE team was able to help support her, come alongside her, provide her with some resources. As we all know, dementia can take many forms, and it can have very different experiences. Ruth just needed some help and how to navigate some of her mom's sundowning. What was it like when mom was hitting 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and starting to exhibit some agitation? And so our GUIDE team was able to come alongside her and help her journey that, as well as connect her to some resources and take advantage of some respite. You can go on to the next slide. Tell a quick story about Bill. 45 years old, his wife was diagnosed with Lewy body type dementia. And again, as many of you know, that's a very challenging type of dementia. He was just struggling to just cope and just navigate, dealing with some health issues himself. The GUIDE team was able to partner with him, support his wife in moving into assisted living. That's not for everybody, but in her case, that's what was needed. And then really provide that support even while she was in the assisted living to both Bill as well as his wife and continue to provide that wraparound support. And so these are real stories from members who have beneficiaries, people who have dementia or their loved one who are caregiving, and real stories about how this program can make a difference. Now, as I shared, this is a demonstration, meaning Medicare is still evaluating the success of this. And what's going to make the difference, whether Medicare turns this into something permanent, or if it doesn't carry forward administration or long-term, is utilization. And so I shared a moment ago, there are 6 million individuals nationally that have dementia. You want to guess how many have been identified locally through the data that we have available? 20,000 here in the greater Jacksonville area have potential dementia. That's Medicare age individuals that are living with the dementia diagnosis that have an opportunity to engage this. And so I just want to encourage you, there are resources, we have some back at the Alivia Care table. What's going to make the difference is utilization for this program. If enough beneficiaries who haven't, use it. So a couple of final things on GUIDE before I turn this microphone over. You can go on to the next slide. What does participation look like? And so in order to engage the GUIDE model, beneficiaries do have to be in traditional Medicare. And again, we don't have time to go in through all the different flavors of Medicare today, but you are not able to be in a Medicare Advantage plan and participate in GUIDE. Now, there's work being done with Medicare Advantage and talking about if this is offered through traditional Medicare, Medicare Advantage, can you please offer something similar? And I do think over the next 12 to 18 months, we'll see Medicare Advantage starting to offer some benefits similar. But in order to participate in this traditional Medicare, you cannot be on a hospice program, you cannot be involved in PACE, and there's some other exclusions with special needs plans and things like that. And again, we don't have time to go into all the details of the different flavors of Medicare, but if you don't know or you're not sure, it'd be something to talk to your provider about. Am I eligible? And if, again, you have dementia or your loved one has dementia, it is something to consider as you go into open enrollment period and you're evaluating Medicare Advantage versus traditional Medicare and talking to your Medicare Advantage plan about are they offering something similar. You must be living in the community. It is not available in long-term care or skilled nursing, but it is available to those that are living in an assisted living or independent living community. So if you are being long-term care under short-term rehab or in a long-term care facility on a dual program through Medicaid, that is another exclusion. But for anybody living in the community on their own in an assisted living, you're eligible for this wonderful benefit. GUIDE works with but does not replace existing healthcare providers. So many primary care programs did not engage as participants in this model. Programs like Alivia Care and others have because they are the specialists. This, like palliative care and other models, is considered to be an extra layer of support for primary care. So as a GUIDE participant, we work with that primary care provider. And so as you talk to your provider, ask them, is there an option for me to potentially engage in this GUIDE model? And if they don't know, bring in a specialist like Alivia Care or Baptist or others who are involved. And then, again, we talked a little bit about the exclusions. Medicare Advantage, enrolled in PACE, or living in a skilled nursing facility. So on to the next slide, and I believe the final slide. If you want to learn more about GUIDE, again, we have opportunities for you in the back. I believe you'll also be getting this slide deck or have access to this. And if you click on the Visit the CMS website link, that actually brings you to the page that shows you where all the GUIDE participants are. Now, we're talking about this in Jacksonville, Florida. This is not limited to Jacksonville, Florida. This is a national program. So if you have loved ones in other parts of the country that may be journeying this, I'd encourage you to go on that link and see where there may be a GUIDE program locally that could help them. And then talk to your primary care provider. Bring it up to them. If they don't know what it is, call one of the specialists like Alivia Care or Baptist or others. We can help communicate the benefit and talk to the primary care provider about how this could also support the work that they're doing. And then again, as we shared, there are handouts in the back. And so I'll just conclude. I am so excited. And I also, in my long bio, shared, I've been doing a lot of work in the value-based care side along with many other folks in healthcare. This model, I think, has the ability to really change the way care is delivered, not just for dementia. If this goes well, I think that CMS will look at this as an opportunity to extend it to all beneficiaries under other programs. And so I would just encourage you, if you have more questions, please come talk to us. There are different stages of dementia. Medicare has not limited it to only those that have really complex dementia. It's available to those who may be even earlier onset. And it's a great opportunity for you to get a benefit from a program like Medicare that many of us have been paying for. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Well, good morning. Happy to be here also, and thrilled to be with so many caregivers. How many of you are caregivers? Take it, majority of you are. You didn't just come for the free lunch, no. Let's see if this has started to work yet. No? Oh, okay, it did. Magic touch. So when I was first given this topic, finding the joy in caregiving, I pondered for a day or two because I've met a lot of caregivers. And you know what I was thinking. Maybe I've met one or two that I wouldn't be able to help them find the joy in caregiving, let's just say that. But I moved on from that and thought, for the majority of you, you've been coming to these. This is tough, tough work. I've been doing support groups for folks that are caregivers for many, many years, and it's not for the weak, for sure. So the next thing I thought was, my favorite definition, so I guess you'll have to advance the slide because it's not moving. This definition of joy. When I was a 19-year-old nursing student at St. Vincent's Hospital School of Nursing in downtown Riverside, someone gave me a little card. Yes, I'm that old. They're going to do the math. You wait. Someone gave me this definition in a little card that I put on my bulletin board. I still have this card. I have, when I think of the word joy, this is what I think of. It's the most infallible sign of the presence of something. True joy. I'm not talking about happiness here, we're talking about joy. So, of course, the person back in the middle of the 1900s who came up with this expression was a Jesuit, but he was also many other things. Joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God, or for those who won't use that word, we'll call him the Great One or the Almighty. It's an internal thing. Next slide. It is, you all know this, it's when someone is at peace with themselves, no matter what's going on. If you have real joy, you still are going to face the hardships of change with your loved one. You'll face this through life. And so for the people who, and of course we have our whole lifetime, a lot of gray heads out there, mine too, we have our whole lifetime to develop ourselves, don't we? And so you'll keep going back to where's my true source of joy coming from? Next slide. So we looked at what is your anchor for joy? Where do you feed yourself continually to develop this inner peace or this sense of going on to be a caregiver? Caregiving can last for a very long time. I met someone recently who, agreed they had taken their dad home, and 14 years later, dad is still in the home. Now that's a commitment. If typically we see a lot of husbands and wives have been married for many years, it can be a long process. If it's a dementia, we call that the long walk, the long disease. But with any chronic condition, I mean, we were keeping people alive now with CHF and COPD with the medications and the procedures we have. So you can be caring for someone with a chronic disease for a very long time. So you keep looking back at your anchors. So it can be other people, your family, your friends, where you meet people. And sometimes we'll hear caregivers say, well, no one calls me anymore. I'm homebound, I'm housebound with this person. So I say back to them, reach out to those people. You can text, you can email, you can pick up an old-fashioned phone if nothing else works, and call and talk to someone, how are you doing? And maybe they'll ask you how you are doing. But you can't be in isolation and be well, mentally well, as a caregiver. You have to have other people. Support groups, of course, we've both talked about this. I've done support groups for many, many years. These support groups are where you are the expert. You come in and share with others. I tend to sit back and I tell the participants in the support groups, you are the experts. You are doing the day-to-day care, day in and day out with this loved one. And the wisdom, the expertise, the caring that comes from people who come long-term to support groups is amazing. Friendships form. One man said to me last year, you should do this weekly. And I said, no, we'll just help you find other support groups. They're all over town. You can meet morning, noon, evening, online, Zoom. He was going to another support group, and so they created a group within the group. And they're the lunch bunch. I don't know what they're called, but so you'll form friendships. You'll share information. You'll share emails with each other. But support groups are meant to be for, and not for public speakers. When I started doing support groups, probably back in the 90s, people wanted to come in and speak to the group. And I quickly learned that's not the way to do them. You are the experts, and you need to talk out your particular situation, which is very helpful, and have other caregivers who are walking the walk that you're walking be giving advice. I'll answer questions, but for the most part, you're the experts. Your belief system can be your anchor for joy, and many people tell me they rely more on their belief system as this gets harder and harder. The situation may not change, but their attitude towards it, and we have to remember, every new day is a new day, right? Every new day starts over. So I've heard many people in the group say, oh, I shouldn't have yelled at her, I shouldn't have done so. Go to bed, tomorrow's a new day. Start over with this new day. Routine. How do you expect me to have a routine when I'm carrying 36 hours a day? You've all read that 36-hour-a-day book. And that's true. Your days are like 36 hours a day. But if it's going to be for the long haul, you've got to have a routine. I suggested to one person that they literally write it down on a yellow pad. I'm too busy, I don't have a routine. Write down, and then you've got to carve in some, even if you're in the same room with the person, you've got to carve in some time for a routine. Not everyone can get to a support group. Not everyone can afford support groups. I'm talking about daycare. Not everyone can get out to have a sitter so they can get to a support group. So try to find one that's online, perhaps. Next slide. I just had to put this in. This is an old book. But I get asked this all the time. Why me? He has all the answers. Who knows why us, right? Who knows? But it's accept it. This is the situation you're in. For the most part, caregivers do accept that they're a caregiver, especially for a long haul. Only once in the many years did a newer, younger person come to our group last year and was stepping in to help take care of her mother, and wasn't in a happy place about this at all. So I just had to zip it for a minute, and I'm glad I did. And some other people chimed in about what a privilege that a daughter could be able to do these things. She never came back, but whether she absorbed anything us gray-haired said, I don't know. It comes with maturity, doesn't it? How many times have you heard, or have I heard, or perhaps you've said, I have 5 siblings, why am I the one? And I'll say, well, cream rises to the top, you know? Or maybe you're the only child. But a study was done back when I was in graduate school. It had to be in the 70s, and they did a study on family caregiving. And the best care is provided by one person who takes charge. Not you get mom 2 weeks, and I get her 3 months, and the moving around. The stability, whether they have a cognitive difficulty or a medical difficulty, one person needs to be in charge and do it. Now, it's wonderful if your sibling wants to come and give you a week's vacation or a 2 weeks vacation. Sometimes we'll hear of that. I had a caregiver one time say, I told my sister in Atlanta I'm putting mom on the bus and sending her. I said, oh, please tell me you're not really going to do that. She didn't, but it can be difficult. So try to get that person or that sibling to come down. Next slide. This is a great book. Carrie gave me this book, but the idea of looking to professional sites. There are caregiving sites and blogs all over the internet. This was just one gal that does a good caregiving blog. And every caregiver group talks about you finding time to support yourself. You cannot be a good caregiver if you don't have some time for yourself. In the craziness of that 36-hour day, you are going to be a better caregiver if that sibling comes down for 2 weeks while you go away, even 2 days. And I know they're not going to do it as good as you do. They're not going to do it the way you do, but let someone step in for some kind of respite. I know River Garden is here. That's where I was for half of my career. They have a wonderful day program, but there's day programs around town also. Not as many as we wish we had. It's tough to keep a successful day program going. Many, many churches over my years in Jacksonville many churches have tried to do it, but there's just not the structure there to keep a program going with activities and food. And so River Garden is blessed to be able to have, we're part of a bigger structure, and we can do this very, very successfully. But time for you, and then time for them. In the support groups, you'll hear from other people in reading about it or in going online. You'll read about things that you can do with your loved one. I always say, they'll ask us when they come to the day program, well, I wish I could do some of these things at home. You can, because day programs, wherever they are, end at supper time. So you've got them all evening and all night and probably all weekend. So try to find things for you and the person, your loved one, that they are interested in. Sometimes families will try to include especially if they have the cognitive difficulties, in their family routines, but that can sometimes be exhausting. I had a son tell me one time, well, I pick mom up around 3:30, then we go pick up the kids, then we go to the ball game, and I said, and then he wondered why his mom was sundowning. Okay, let's talk through some different strategies, because mom is exhausted too. Those kids are probably exhausted, these poor kids that have to play ball till 7. Let's think of something different you can do with her, because she's going to not be able to control her sundowning by 5 o'clock. She's hungry, she's tired, and you're in a ball field somewhere. So he actually had somebody, he brought his mom home, and a neighbor stayed with her for a couple of hours on those kind of days. Sometimes you have to kind of think out of the box. TV is not the answer to sit with them, but something creative that they can do. I often think of one caregiver. I think I would have given her the Caregiver of the Year award. Her husband had been a surgeon, and he had a particularly difficult kind of dementia. He was just hyper, moving all the time. I came into the home one day, and there she is at the dining room table, like she's cleared the whole dining room table off for him. He's got his little light magnifier thing on. He's got the clamp. He's got the needle threader thing. I'm going, now this is creative. And he is stringing together beads. Beautiful beads, not the plastic ones, beautiful ones. But he's carefully tying each one off with a surgical knot. That kept him focused for hours. I thought, how did you come up with this idea? I just had to let him do what he was used to doing and something that he liked. But whoa. So not all of us will be that creative. I've told my husband if he ever has any issues, I've got to find out of those 800 channels he pays for, that program where he watches Laurel and Hardy. If he can laugh at those things that I think are really silly, really stupid, but I hope when the time comes he'll still be laughing at those things. You have to tune in to what their interests are. We had a lady in our day program who her and her husband were walkers. Well, just because he had dementia didn't mean he couldn't walk. So when he finally was admitted into the home, She came every day and did her walk with him all around the campus. She knew it wasn't, it was good for her. It was certainly good for him, and it kept him doing something he loved doing. And it kept them together. That was her visit. Her visit was doing something with him. So do go online, do go on these and find that one little nugget of information that you can absorb and use. I don't know if again, this would be for dementia, but you've probably all heard of Teepa Snow, T-E-E-P-A, Snow. She's been to Jacksonville a few times. I don't see her on the circuit anymore, but all of her information now is on YouTube. And you can download a little 1-minute strategy, and she's brilliant. She's just, her presentation is wonderful, but it gives you something very, very practical that you can give to a family. So people in our support group have said they have done that, and they have learned something from this woman. Next. This is another great site. It's the Carter Center Institute for Caregiving, but something very profound that Rosalind Carter said, both of the Carters are gone now, but there are only 4 kinds of persons in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. It is very, very true. And there's great information on that site that I've gone on. People my age who don't need them right now, we all get together when we get together with our friends, and we talk about who's going to be our caregiver. And of course, we think up ideas like we're all going to live together in a commune somewhere, like an idea from the 60s. And then I've said to my friends, and they say, well, we need you there, Sue, because you're the nurse. And I said, but who's going to take care of some really basic things like changing us? And they look at me, well, we don't need that. Well, one of us will. God help you if it's me. But at some point we will, and so planning would be involved, right? Yeah, so peg that kid or that relative or paid caregivers. Okay, paid caregivers are wonderful. We have some agencies here that offer that respite, and that not only brings a professional into your home, but it gives you time to get away. I want to read one thing that, I still get a weekly newspaper. Hello, does anybody else still do that? There you go. This is a great one, Epic Times. But there was a letter in it last week that goes back to what I started with about the joy in caregiving. This is a man who is in his mid-90s, and he's writing a letter to talk about kindness and civility, and eventually he gets to joy. And he said he was going to an area, and he saw a young 20-something in front of him, and he thought for sure the kid would go through and slam the door, and he'd have to open it. And he was surprised when the kid opened the door and let him through. And so he compared what that incident did to an article he had read about kindness and civility and joy. And so he shares in the letter his wife of 70 years, well, that's a very long time, and she had passed, and he went through, he says, a grief I had never known, but I depended then on the comfort and kindness of friends, especially people through his church. He said, I believe they did it out of a kindness and love that springs from that joy at the center that they all have. And he says it was the same as that young man who held the door for me. So then he goes into, where does this come from? And he said, I feel it even today that it was a peace and joy at the center of, he's talking about himself, my being, which never left me. He had developed that sense, that infallible sense of the presence. He said, which never left me and ultimately had me firmly believing that no matter how things get, how bad things may get, we are in God's hands and we will be big winners in the end, and that's a reason for my joy. And that was the letter that he wrote. And so I think that's a takeaway for us. And the last one, last slide. This is from the same Jesuit who wrote, God is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. There's a website, obviously he's dead. So I thought this was a gooder one. Growing old is like being increasingly penalized for a crime you haven't committed. Thank you, and we'll talk at the end.
Is that better? All right, awesome. Good afternoon. I am pleased to come and share with you all today. My exposure to the caregiving role happened whenever I was in middle school. My hero at the time, my grandfather, suffered a stroke. And having suffered that stroke, with my family, there were 9 siblings, and my mother was chosen to be the caregiver, my mother and my stepfather, for my grandfather. So here I have my hero now is in a role where now he needs support, and he's living in a home with my parents who are working. They're raising a middle school child. I'm not going to say what type of child I was. I was a good child. But but just really understanding the complexities and the needs that they had at that time really drives my passion for what it is that I do every day. So I want to talk to you all about some strategies on keeping your loved ones safe at home and also in public. So next slide, please. Okay, so as you can see here, just some key bullet points. The United States, we're aging. We're getting older. And older is good, and hopefully we're aging gracefully. We're expecting to see that, a lot of us, as we get older, what do you want to do? You want to maintain your independence. You want to try to stay at home. You want to have your sense of autonomy. So we have to make sure that we deal with those effects and those needs of our patients and our loved ones in this environment. We also know that as we get older, you sometimes have a little bit more conditions. Diabetes may be rampant, congestive heart failure, your joints might hurt a little bit more. You have a need for some more medical follow-up and things of that nature that make aging a little bit more challenging as we go along that continuum. We also see that as we get older and as we have more needs in our homes, when you look at housing developments and things of that nature, they're not built or designed to basically accommodate those of us as we are getting older. So as we're doing that, how do we have resources and how do we have support and how do we look at things in the community to help us grow older and to age gracefully in place? Next slide, please. So as Dr. Krall was just alluding to, we are getting older. As you can see on this slide here, the number of older adults that are 65 and older are going to outpace those who are the children that are under 18. So in essence, who's going to be our caretakers? Right? I tell my young adults, be careful. That's how I'm going to write up my paperwork. But you want to look at basically for all of us, who is going to fulfill that role? Who's going to take care of us? Because again, the percentage of the aging population is growing in the United States. Next slide, please. And as we get older, some of the things that you all as caregivers have to look at, home safety, that is a huge issue for us, especially in my space within the home health. We have a lot of referrals that come into our space because of home safety issues, falls, medication management. A lot of times there may be complex medication regimens or medical, follow-ups that you have to have. Caregivers, who's available? Do you have the knowledge and the resources to take care of your loved ones? And again, how do we keep people out of the hospital? How do we reduce emergency department visits, things of that nature to basically keep you safe at home and when you're out in public? Next slide, please. So we do have basically, this is a fall prevention slide. So the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, they have an initiative called the STEADY program. Just so you all know, falls is a major indicator of negative outcomes for our older patient population. And I want to state that falling is not normal, okay? We don't want to normalize falling. So if we have your loved ones, if they're falling, if there's resources or needs that are available, we're going to talk a little bit about that through the next slides. But just in the sense of the cost of falling, it can be very expensive. If your loved one falls, unfortunately, they may end up in the hospital. They may have to, go into short-term rehab or have other services that are available after they discharge from that setting. And then two, just the functional mobility of your loved one after they fall. The fear of falling really can be very detrimental to our older patient population. So in the state of Florida, we have a lot of falls data, but we want to make sure that people are aware. If you go to the CDC and you type in STEADY, they have a lot of resources for family members and caregivers to really help you from day to day when it comes to fall prevention. Next slide. I'm going to show you a couple examples of this. So this is something too, when you look at home safety tips for older adults. A lot of us, when you look at housing now, 2 stories, you have stairs, you have lighting, you have basically your bedrooms. Do you have no-skid rugs in place? Do you pick up those throw rugs? Those are trip hazards. In your showers, do you have grab bars to make sure that it's accessible for your loved one to get in and out of that shower safely? Also look where the bed is. I don't know if you can see the placement of like the bedside table. We really want to make sure that you all have strategies at looking at your furniture placement. You don't want your loved one to roll out of bed and then they're right next to a bedside table and now you have an injury because they have now hit their head or injured a body part. So these are slides. We actually have these back at our Brooks table that you can actually take these home with you today that can give you some high-level pointers for adequate lighting, things of that nature to help reduce falls in your home. Okay, next slide, please. This is another wonderful resource that's on that STEADY website. We actually have this checklist in the back for you as well. You can go room for room in your home to look at where those hazards are, to make sure, again, it's just a simple checklist. And I know sometimes we have a lot of furniture, we have a lot of things that we want to hold on to as keepsake. We're not saying to get rid of those, but basically look at how you can maybe position those a little bit safer in your environment to help you and your loved ones stay safe. Next slide, please. Okay, appropriate footwear. I'm going to kind of check myself today. I ask y'all to look down at your feet. We want to make sure, too, that your loved ones are having appropriate footwear. There are so many falls that happen because we don't have on the right footwear. And so we also have, too, in that STEADY website, if you can see what makes a shoe unsafe, and then appropriate examples of footwear that's down on the right-hand side, that will help you with that. So not only from a fall prevention standpoint, if your loved one has a condition such as diabetes, or you have neuropathy, and you have decreased sensation in your feet, you want to be very careful about your footwear because, again, you could have a risk for injury, for wounds that can end up having more issues and more problems. So we actually have this resource for you available as well in the back that you can take home with you today. Next slide, please. All right, durable medical equipment, so DME. If you have a need for walkers, canes, beds, things of that nature, there are guidelines from the Medicare site to be able to qualify for that. There are some things that you can rent to own. There are some things that basically they require a medical doctor's prescription in order to get that. We have all this information for you to know and to use and to have because we want to make sure, too, that you have the appropriate equipment that your loved one needs when they're out ambulating in their house, out in public. So if you're utilizing a walker, if you're utilizing a wheelchair, what do your dimensions look like in your home to make sure that you have safe ambulation with that? You can have all of that with those resources with working with a DME provider to make sure that they recommend the appropriate equipment for you, okay? We have sometimes people that will become furniture walkers. And I don't know if you've seen it, like they will hold on to furniture from spot to spot and hoping that that makes them safe. That is a very risky behavior in the home. If you have the right DME equipment, you have the right home assessment evaluation, then we can make sure we recommend the appropriate items for them. Next slide, please. All right, so these are some new technologies and some technologies that keep on going. So emergency alert devices, if you look on the far right here, that is something that like a life alert or a VRI system where you can basically wear it as a pendant or as a watch and you push it if you have an emergency. So if your loved one is fallen, if they have fallen, if they're on the ground, they can push that. It will activate EMS services. A lot of these can be waterproof. They can be worn, if you have like a pacemaker, things of that nature, your doctor would need to approve that. But those are things that are very readily available. Some insurance plans actually cover these. So depending on what your insurance plan is and your coverage, you might want to ask them, do they have a medical alert device system that is available for your use? So you also have items like Apple Watches. And so these are really neat as well, too, because they actually have GPS on them. They have fall detection. So with the first example, you have to actually push and activate that. With a GMS or a GPS or a fall detection device, they can basically determine like if you've had a change in level. So if you've been standing and now your position changes, or you might be on the floor, it can actually detect that and activate EMS. So for those of us, I have a Galaxy, sorry, but if you have an Apple Watch, if you have an Apple Watch, that is a feature, a fall detection feature that may be available with your plan. So you definitely want to make sure that you look into that as well. And if you have a patient, or a loved one that may be falling out of bed or when they're in chairs, on the far right, you'll see bed and chair alarms. So those basically detect sensors. So like if your loved one gets up, they can detect that the sensor, like the weight has changed, and it will alarm you. And so these are things that you can get off of Amazon, things of that nature. They do not require a doctor's order, but they will help you, again, in terms of fall detection and being aware of that. Next slide, please. All right, does anybody's kitchen table look like this with all these meds? Ooh, goodness. All right. We get a lot of referrals in our space to help with medication management. Medication management is a big issue when it comes to safety of our older adult population. As we see, as we get older, sometimes those conditions that we manage also come along with us. So it ends up being more medications. It may be going to different specialists who may not know. You might go to your primary who's prescribed one thing. Now you go to the cardiologist, they've prescribed another medication. If you have a nephrologist, now you have another set of pills. And so it can be very challenging for your loved one and for you as a caregiver to manage these complex medication regimens. So next slide, please. Okay, just some quick facts for you all. So when you look at the percentage of prescribed medications that are consumed by the older adult population, that's over a third of the population. So medications is a big deal. And the risk that can be associated with, so 3 in 4 older adults take at least one medication that increases your risk of falling and also being in a car crash, like an accident, because again, they can impact and they can be linked to adverse effects sometimes, and because of a lot of the polypharmacy that's out there. So we want to make sure that we come in as providers and being able to provide resources on how you can have support with this. Next slide, please. A lot of these patients, or your loved ones, they're going to take less medication than what is prescribed. There's a variety of reasons for that. Resources. So again, is it the affordability of the medication? Some medications are very expensive. And then if the doctor changes your medication, you know, and you have to buy one 30-day supply, now they change you to a different medication, then the next time you go back, it's a different medication. That can be a huge barrier to making sure that you take your medications as they are prescribed. Some people are taking other people's medications. So if you're in the same household and mom and dad, they might be taking each other's medications. That can be a very real thing, and that's a risk to you all in terms of keeping them safe. And then also, too, that, you know, we might stop taking the medication before it runs out. So one of the things that the state of Florida has done, and we'll advance to the next slide, please. In order to really combat one of the major things is not taking your medications because of cost, you can go to the ACA website, and it's RX Finder, and you can actually put in the name of a medication, and it will let you know what the cost of that drug is. So I put some examples for Duval County. Metoprolol is a blood pressure medication. So if I go to CVS, that medication is $36.79. If I look at UF Health Pharmacy, it's $102.35. If you go to Walgreens, it's $24.19. So which one would you be choosing? Right, Walgreens. So again, we want to make sure that we take away the barriers to people being able to take their medication. So this is accessible, and this is free to us. If you go to RX Finder, you can put in that medication, put in the county that you live in, and it will give you that information. So if you have any type of cost associated with meds, this is a great way to do that. So that way we make sure that people are taking their medications and not taking them because of affordability, okay? All right, next slide. All right, so some additional safety considerations that you want to take into consideration for the safety of your loved one, the stigma. So a lot of times, if you have your loved one who's been independent, they've been in their social circle, no one's ever seen them ambulate with a cane or with a walker or have to have an oxygen concentrator that they're wearing, those are very real challenges. So for you as a caregiver, how do you operate and how do you encourage your loved one that you can still have a walker, you can still have a cane, you can decorate them. They come in all kinds of bells and whistles now to really make it so that they can use that and be safe with that. You want to make sure too, again, that you take into consideration cognitive impairments, their social interactions. We have a lot of adult, like the centers that are around Jacksonville that you can go to, and they're like the senior citizen centers. Think about things like that where they can come and be involved with that. You have driver safety, so we have programs, like we have one such program at Brooks. If you want to have the safety of your loved one tested if they're still driving, you have programs that will actually do that and make sure that they're safe to do that as well. And then also to be alert for like other things that expose them when you're out in public, like the heat. Right now, we know the heat is a big thing. So the city of Jacksonville, if you subscribe to that, you can get alerts that actually will give you like, some of those indications of how to stay cool, when the best times are to go outside, things of that nature, so you don't end up having your loved one be susceptible to the elements that are outside. Next slide, please. All right, so additional services that can be available. We have home health services. So again, if your loved one has been in the hospital, or if there's an issue with medication management, or if you need, like if you see a decline in how they're walking around the home, or if they had a fall, you can basically have a referral to home health, and we can come in and basically manage quite a few conditions in the home under the doctor's order, and make sure that we work in conjunction with that family member and also with your loved one, so that we can improve their outcomes. You have services such as private duty, and that is a private pay service, but they can basically come in, help do bathing, they can help do respite care as needed, companionship, laundry, all those things. It doesn't have to be long-term, it can be short-term contracts in order to give you that respite and support that you need in the home. Next slide, please. Additionally, we have the state of Florida launched a Care Navigator Plus network last year to help with other resources that may basically be challenges for caregivers and for their loved ones. So I actually put in my zip code here in Duval County, and when I put in my zip code, I don't know if you can see here, there were 2,800 programs that were available close or near to me that help in a lot of these things: food, housing, goods, education, care, work. So we actually, this will be in your slide deck so you can do that. So you can put in your zip code or wherever you are, and these are resources that can be available that would help, because not only might you need medical care, but if you need additional resources and support, you can find all of that through utilizing the community resources, because they do realize that if you don't have the right resources, that can definitely impact the care that your loved one gets. Next slide, please. All right, and then you all know we are in hurricane season, so please make sure you have a plan, especially whenever you are a caregiver. We do have the emergency preparedness guide that comes out from the city of Jacksonville. If you're in other counties, you can go to your county's website, and they will basically also have what that emergency plan looks like. They give you medications, what you need to do in terms of documents that you need, things of that nature to keep you safe, okay? We do know that they have shelters, but shelters should be your last resort. So we want to make sure that you plan ahead and plan accordingly, especially if you have medical equipment needs, things of that nature. But please make sure that you definitely have a plan to keep you and keep your loved ones safe when you're out in public, or if you are in the midst of a severe weather event. Next slide, please. Okay. So just wanted to leave you all with this quote, just basically, regardless of what challenge you're facing right now, know that it has not come to stay. It has come to pass. During these times, do what you can with what you have and ask for the help needed. Most importantly, never surrender. Put things in perspective. Take care of yourself. Find ways to replenish your energy, strengthen your faith, and fortify yourself from the inside out. And I just want to really leave you all with this. I think sometimes caregiving, we don't know all the resources and the support that we have. And so hopefully these links are very valuable to you to help you keep your loved ones safe in the home, and then also safe whenever they're out in the community. So thank you so much, and please visit the Brooks table for more information.
Okay. Oops, someone's water. Someone needs to stay hydrated. So thank you again, all of you. Appreciate your insights, your information, your perspectives, lots of really good information. We wanted to make sure they had time to get that out. And now we have time to answer some questions. So there are some folks around the room with microphones. If you have a question, if you raise your hand, and we'll see if we can get them answered today. And if not today, we'll try to get them answered after. So do we have any questions from the room? There's one right there.
Hello. For Chris, you indicated that GUIDE is a program and it has a lifespan on it. What is the lifespan of the current program?
Great question. So CMS approved a 7-year demonstration. Now, every year that can be reevaluated, but as what we know today, it's planned to go for 7 years, which would take it to 2032. And again, our hope is that CMS sees the value and this becomes a permanent part of the Medicare benefit.
Thank you. Another question? She's coming right now.
Hi, this may be for another time, but my husband doesn't like to do anything but watch the news. I asked him yesterday, because I was thinking about this, well, honey, would you like to go bowling, or is there anything you want to do? And he goes, no, not really. That'd probably hurt my back. I don't know, what do you do with someone like that?
They're looking at me because I'm a guy, I guess.
Yeah, essentially she started tearing up when you were talking about how you can find joy in doing these things with your care recipient and your loved one, because she feels like she can't, because he won't. So it was.
Does he have a cognitive issue, or okay? Perhaps instead of saying "would you like," start with "we are going." It's a declarative statement, and if he says no, give it a minute, and then we're ready to go now. Here's your sweater, put on your shoes. So direct, short, declarative statements, not a lot of information, so let's go. We hear this all the time when folks come to daycare. My loved one will only, well, and it's TV. Because they're sitting in the recliner, and no doubt the clicker's right there, and somehow they haven't forgotten how to use that yet. Or it just stays on, and they're just kind of mindlessly, they're really not. So when they come to a group setting, if you can, and you don't say, would you like to go to a, we're going to have coffee, come. You tell a little fib, a little lie. And you're going to take them to a program where everyone is doing something every 30 to 40 minutes. And they don't say, you know, would you like, and some people still can say, I don't want to play cards. Fine, I'm not going to make you do it. But by others participating, they tend to follow along what others are doing. But it's not asking, it's telling in a very nice way. Good. Nudging, yeah.
If I may add, within the Brooks system of care, we have a lot of community-based programming. So you can go to www.brooks.org, and based on your husband's level of cognition, there may be some programming that we have, not only in the space of like adaptive programming, but community-based programming that would actually also be a fit for your husband as well too. So please feel free to visit that website and also our table in the back. Thank you.
Any more questions? We have a couple more minutes to take a couple more questions. Did I see someone's hand go up? Oh, over in the far right. The mic is coming. Hang on.
Question for Chris. I heard a lot of words about the GUIDE program. I didn't hear a lot of benefits. What's the biggest benefit of that program?
Yeah, again, I think there's a lot within the way the program's structured. Sue said 24/7 support. I think that's probably one of the key. Respite, and ultimately the respite benefit, as we all shared, can be a great resource for caregivers, and that's paid for as a part of the program. And so as CMS built this demonstration model, I think respite was at the forefront of one of the biggest benefits to caregivers. Good question. Respite is short-term support In the case of GUIDE, it can be done by a home care provider in the home, or there is an opportunity to do respite in an adult day center, or even a 24/7 facility if needed for a 24-hour respite period. And again, respite is just that short break, whether it be for up to 4-hour increments in the home, during a day program up to 8 hours, or 24 hours in a facility.
We have a couple more questions over here.
Can I add that I pass out the brochures for this GUIDE program at all of our support groups. And for those who don't have regular Medicare, I give them the Alivia pamphlet that is still access to a support program. And typically I hear from people, I think you started with, what do I do on Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday morning? And they're desperate for who do I ask that's objective and professional? And so that's what it is. It's access to somebody at the end of a line that you can talk to and get another perspective.
Okay, we have 2 gentlemen over here for some questions, and then we're going to wrap it up, but we'll have the opportunity after. Go ahead.
Yeah, the problem isn't so much cognitive. It's physical. She uses a walker strenuously, to get around. 2-part question, sort of. I'm trying to get her involved in social activity, something out there. And just the second part is, how do you get them out of the house? I mean, other than doctor's visits and grocery store, that's our life right now. And I'm trying to get her involved in some sort of social, interactive, something, anything.
Yeah, again, for us, I think you meet your loved one where she is, and like if there's something that she loved to do whenever she was a little bit more active, can you use that as kind of like the starting point, right? And being, again, if you were to go to that website of resources, type in your zip code, you may find like either entities that could come to you. So like if you have like a skilled need or something to that degree that you want to work on, like her mobility is decreased, maybe you start with home health and we get home health in, and that's engagement with getting her more involved with exercises. And then we have like a strategy, okay, we're going to progress you to maybe doing one of our community-based programming needs or things of that nature, and then kind of start small and see if you can graduate that way to meet where her need is. So that way you're helping improve function, and you're also too helping to meet, some of those other, needs that she may have from a day-to-day basis. But there are a lot of community-based programming that may be able to help you in that regard.
And I'm gonna add to that also, if you don't mind. So depending on where you live, there's senior centers who also have transportation, who will also, you can reach out to, and they may come and help pick up your loved one to come to the center and participate. And there's a lot more other people there also with walkers and canes and assistive devices. And when they start seeing that they're not the only ones, that might also make them feel comfortable. And I tell caregivers, go with them until they're used to being there. And then, if you can, or if you're able to, and then back away out, because they're going to just get engaged, and you'll see something change there. Yeah. Yeah. And yep. There's also wonderful online programs for social interaction and physical activity. One is Vivo, which we have a caregiver support program at ElderSource that uses Vivo. I did it with my mom, and we did exercise together, but they become a community, and it kind of gets things going. It's getting it going. So, but also go to, I know we shared some resources, but go to myeldersource.org, the website there. There's a ton of resources for caregivers. And the helpline and so forth that you can reach out to that we can help you with. So we had one more question. Okay, I'm sorry, we have 2 more questions, but one here and one there. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the guide program, I noticed the exclusion was for people that have Advantage, Medicare Advantage programs. What if you're stuck with a Medicare Advantage program? Any suggestions about support or alternatives?
Sure. So, and the reason there's an exclusion, Medicare is already paying the Medicare Advantage plan to provide care coordination, and so it would be duplicative if they were also allowing guide as a part of the benefit. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you're coming into October, and this is open enrollment season where you, as a beneficiary, have the opportunity to shop and ask some hard questions of your current plan as well as those you're looking at. And then I would encourage you to also look at the benefits that are available through traditional Medicare with some additional supplement work. But this is you have a choice. And so looking at the benefits that you're being offered through whatever your plan is, and then comparing those to what may be just available with traditional Medicare.
And to help you with that, there's brochures at the Elder Source table on the SHINE program who will help you figure out the different options related to Medicare and Medicare Advantage and what are your needs and help you make your choice. And that's free and unbiased. And we have another question. We're going to make this the last question.
Yes, I have a client who's involved in a program called IMEP, I-M-E-P, Integrative Memory Enhancement Program. It's in Duval, not in Duval County, and I don't know why. It's in St. Johns County. And she has a bus that comes and picks her up in Atlantic Beach and takes her to St. Johns County for the day to be with other people in a group setting. And they do physical and cognitive exercises. It's fantastic. And I don't know why it's not available here with so much need.
Yeah. The IMAP program was started by the St. Johns County Council on Aging. That is their program.
So why don't we get it?
Because someone has to adopt that. But that's something we should talk to some folks in Duval about, and our other counties. And there may be other programs other than IMAP that exist that may not be available in other counties. Okay, so thank you again. Wonderful. There is so much information. It's hard to cover it all in just a one setting, so we hope you come back. Before you go, we have a drawing. Also, we want to hear from you. Please complete the survey. 2 things I also want to point out to you is that if you're living with someone who's living with dementia, or you're caring for someone living with dementia, we know they are at risk of wandering and getting lost. We have partnered with JSO to provide scent kits where you capture the scent of your loved one. So if they get lost, they have dogs who will help find those missing persons before it's too late. Please check that information out at the table in the back, as well as Better Age. Grab that flyer. That also has resources for you. So, last, we have drawings. We have a drawing, just one drawing. It's not a stick figure drawing. Let's see, Dayeli Kunkel. Dayeli Kunkel, still in the room? Am I saying it wrong? Where? Ah, there she is. Okay, sorry if I butchered your name. Okay, well listen, thank you so much for coming out today, spending the day with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next workshop. You have a great day.